I begin by acknowledging the hereditary artists throughout India and recognize the importance of their contribution to the form of dance that I speak about today. I pay my respects to their community, past, present, and emerging. My name is Christopher Gurusamy, and I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. And when I was 17 and finishing high school, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea what my future would be. Now, I remember when I received my high school certificate at graduation, Mrs. Petrina Rodriguez, the principal of Chisholm Catholic College, she handed it to me and she said, "You're going to dance your way through life." And in my head, I laughed and I said, yeah, right. Now look, I grew up in Perth, Western Australia, which is a very normal place. It's the world's most isolated capital. It's where the Swan River meets the Indian Ocean on the southwest coast. Its sunny beaches line its suburbs. I remember when I was 11 or 12 when our population hit 1 million people. Now, if you're like me and you grow up Indian, it's the kind of city where you go to school, get good grades, go to uni, get a job, meet someone, buy a house, have kids, watch a lot of football matches, and you grow old. It's a great place to grow up and a wonderful place to live, but somehow I knew that it wasn't always going to be the place for me. Now, in full disclosure, in school, I wasn't very good at maths or science or computers or spelling, but what I was really good at was painting, poetry, drawing, and dance. You know, the stuff that people constantly reminded me wouldn't make me easily successful. It was the path that was much less followed, and a very, very hard path at that. So I compartmentalized the arts and tried to figure out a way to follow the conventional. I thought I would become, a nurse, or I'd work in a shop, or something. But I'd always danced. I've danced Bharatanatyam, I've danced jazz, tap, gymnastics, ballet. I even took it as a subject in high school. Now, my high school had this thing. If you were good at something, you had to do it. So I was told that I had to audition for Ballet University, WAPA, in Perth. I remember standing at the bar, raising my arm and thinking to myself, God, I absolutely hate this. And I think it was then that I thought, I wish I had the guts to go to Kalakshetra. Now, Kalakshetra is one of the most prestigious dance schools for Bharatanatyam in the world. The institute was founded in 1936 by Srimati Rukmini Devi Arundale in Chennai, India, as an international institution for the sharing of South Indian classical arts. It's an institution of national importance and has been infused with the work of great artists, dancers, and musicians. It played a major role in the establishment of the dance we know as Bharatanatyam today. So this is all happening in 2005, and the internet wasn't what it is now. And going to India to study dance seemed absolutely insane. So I sent a handwritten letter asking for an application form. I'm not 100% sure I wanted them to send one back, but they did 2 months later, and I filled it in and I sent it back by post, and I was given a date for an interview, and only after that interview would I be accepted as a student or not. So I thought I would at least try to go. So I wanted to go to this school, but I didn't know that being a dancer was an actual job. I didn't know how complex the form really was. I didn't know its history. I didn't know the music and the aesthetics. I didn't know about the annual December season. But what I did know was that I wanted to dance. I've always loved dance. Dance is still the reason I wake up most mornings. My mum, Carol, who is English, she was the first student of my paternal aunt, Srimati Jayalakshmi Raman. My aunt was the first ever Singaporean to graduate from Kalakshetra in the 1960s. So my parents, they met through dance, the Nizam of Hyderabad, and a dinner party. Look, dance played its part. And yes, this is all still happening in Perth, Western Australia. So my mum and dad, they fell in love, they got married, and they had me. And my mum danced through her pregnancy, which means my dance education started -9 months of however old you think that I am. My mom took me with her when she joined classes again, and I never stopped going. Sorry, I've got enough time. So, how do you try to go to an institution like Kalakshetra? Well, for one, I had an open ticket, which meant I could go to the airport and get onto the next available flight. So I had an escape route if I needed one. My parents were very, very open and kind of vocal about me coming home. I'm kind of sure my mum, in many ways, would have preferred just for me to be at home because she was always worried about me. And most of my families, they had bets on how long I would last that ranged from a week to 3 months. So I knew I had to last at least a little bit longer than that. But spoiler alert, I've been in Chennai for 15 years now, so I won. The classes were just brutal. It was a different world. In Australia, everyone is told you can achieve if you try. However, in India, it was as hard as you try, it won't ever be good enough. But I use the word try because, quite honestly, I never knew if I could or would make it. But at least I gave it a shot. So I'm 18, I've moved to Chennai. Do I know Tamil? No. Did I see the campus before I joined? No. Did I have family or support in Chennai? No. Did I like Indian food? No. Suddenly I found myself living in a hostel where waking up at 7:30 on a Sunday morning was considered sleeping in. Cold water bucket baths in shower rooms with frogs in the corner. Washing 4-meter white dhotis, which had to be spotless by hand in buckets, was the absolute norm. Eating Indian food every day of every meal. Being 18 and having a curfew of 6 p.m. No TV, no internet, and definitely no air conditioning. I went from being one of the 5 Indian boys in my high school to being considered white in 2 relatively short flights. Living for dance was not what I had expected. In my first year of college, I got malaria not once, but twice. One time I had a UTI, a stomach infection, and I almost had to have my appendix removed all at the same time. I was sick every few days with a tummy upset, and every night I would pack my bags to leave. But my seniors, who were my role models and I aspired to be like, they would tell me it was too late to go to the airport, so they would take me the next day. So I would sleep, and somehow that next day would be a little bit easier and I would say I don't need to go. It was a really confusing 6 years. Yes, that's right, 6 years. And yes, I know I could have become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer in that time. But despite all of this, those years were some of the most happy years of my life. I remember being inspired by Leela Sampson, who was the director of Kalakshetra during my time at the Institute. The moment I met her, I was in awe. She opened the school and in so many ways opened all of the students to a larger world of dance. Getting to watch Leela dance, watching and seeing which beautiful sari she wore each morning at prayer, learning with her when she would walk into our classes. I also remember hiding from her when we were bunking classes and sneaking off to the hostel and getting in trouble from her for jumping over fences. But besides that, in my 3rd year, I had the same teacher that my aunt had 40 years earlier, Srimati Pushpashankar. We had amazing performances to watch from all over India and from sometimes around the world. Dancers I had seen in the few books in Bharatanatyam now leapt and danced in front of me. And even today when I meet some of them, I still get butterflies in my tummy. The excitement of being chosen to be part of the Kalakshetra dance dramas, even if it was holding a stick as guard number 2 for 20 minutes. And then there were the days that dancing just felt as good as breathing. We were exposed to literature, lectures, temple architecture, 4-day Kathakali festivals, 6-day music concerts, 10-day annual arts festivals, the dance dramas. It was the most beautiful world that we were all a part of. One of my favorite memories is from my first year and walking to watch performance in Besanagar Temple, which is about 1.5 kilometers away. And halfway through the show, the power cut. And while we were walking back, we got caught in the rain and we danced on the deserted Chennai streets at 8:30 p.m. And as we got drenched to the bone, my best friend Vasundhara, who is still my best friend, We laughed how one day we would tell our students how far we walked to watch a program and the hardships we braved by walking in the rain because we loved to watch dance. Our regular days at college, they went like this. We would wake up and go for prayer and breakfast at 7 a.m. in the dining hall, fully dressed. College at 8:30, starting under the beautiful banyan tree where they had prayers from all religions. Our classes other than dance were a mixture of vocal music, Sanskrit, Tamil, history, the theory of dance, and Vedic heritage. At 10 a.m., we would have a 1.5 hour dance class with no fan in 40-degree heat with no breaks for water. Fun. We started our training from scratch, so it didn't matter if you'd been dancing Bharatanatyam for years, or weeks, or days. We all started at the very beginning. This was followed by lunch and then more classes from about 1 o'clock till 4. We'd have a small break, and on Wednesday and Friday we'd have this thing called bun and puff, which was a buttered bun and a puff, and it was the best. After 5 o'clock, we would return to college to practice for our own pleasure, chasing this idea of being perfect. But what does it mean to be perfect? Now, in those days, to me it meant that I could sit in Aramandi, a plie type position, for the longest and the lowest. I could bend and lean the furthest, and my lines were the cleanest. And by the time you're in your final year, you can make yourself the most amazingly perfect dancer, and quite frankly, I think I was one. So as I stood in my class, my first day of my final year, sweating, and I use the term loosely because it looked like someone had thrown a bucket of water all over me, that my teacher, he looked at me and he said, "Christopher, it's so perfect that it's boring. Do something." And my world fell apart. I thought I had wasted 5 years of my life, that it had all been for nothing. If perfect was boring, what was I? What could I do? I had spent 5 years crazed by this idea of being perfect. What did he mean? Despite all the crazy things that I had gone through, this was the thing that sent my world spinning. I was depressed for weeks. Later, I came across this quote of a famous ballet dancer who had a profound impact on Srimati Rukmini Devi as well, Anna Pavlova. It said, "Master technique and then forget about it and be natural." Now look, I'm not saying that I've mastered technique at all, but I remember walking into class and I said to myself, let me try and enjoy what I'm doing. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. In chasing perfection, I'd forgotten the joy, the happiness, and the love that I had for dance. And it almost felt like something clicked. A few weeks later, I, with so many of my teachers and peers, we performed at Sri Krishna Gana Sabha's Natyakala conference, a very prestigious event. I did a 5 minute piece, a very small bit of a piece, but I remember that I enjoyed every moment of it. I remember my dad, he ran up to me and hugged me and started laughing, and my mum was crying because she was so proud, and Leelaka gave me this approving nod, and I was just so confused. A man came up to me and told me that I had danced so well. That man was Sri Y. Prabhusa, the chairman of the Sabha, and he invited me to dance as part of the Chennai season, my first ever concert as a soloist. And all I had done was dance. I'm so lucky that I've danced in Krishna Gana Sabha quite a few times, and when I do, there's always a sense of home because it's such a special place for me. After Kalakshetra, it's really where my journey started, and all I did was embrace the dance and not worry about being perfect or technique, and just enjoying what I had worked so hard to do. I think what that quote translates to me today is work hard, try your hardest, and then when you get the opportunity, enjoy it. It's funny to think about it now. Now I realize that there is so much more to dance than perfection. Perfection has limitations, it's static. It's taken me a lot of thinking and a lot of people helping me see the light and go beyond perfection. Dance and this path that is less tread has taught me to be resilient, to face my problems head on. And I'm so lucky, I'm really, really lucky. Even though this journey hasn't always been easy, I've learned It's that when we fall over that we learn the most. Going to Kalakshetra was something I tried to do, and I fell over many, many, many times. But somehow I always picked myself up and kept going. And now, 15 years later, I'm still trying to be the best dancer I can be for myself. If I hadn't tried to go to Kalakshetra, I don't know what my life would be, and I can't imagine a life without dance at all. So go out and try, because you never know what can happen, and then enjoy what you're doing, because that will make it all so much more worth it. Who knew that my principal all those years ago would be right? Who knew that I would actually dance my way through life?